The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 years, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists, Juan Galt from juangalt.com,
Hello there.
Dan Eve, the Crypto Raptor,
Happy Friday, folks.
Victoria Jones from Satoshi's Page,
Hey, hey, how you all doing?
Ben Ark from LN Bits,
Hello.
and I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Moving on to issue 1. Bitcoin set for worst week in nearly a year on Mt. Gox liquidation fears. The day we've all been waiting for is finally here. Everyone who left their coins on Mt. Gox is now getting paid back. Well, some of it. And they're expected to sell, sell, sell. The market is reacting appropriately and taking it easy. Bitcoin slides to 2-month low as Fed signals it's not ready to cut rates yet. A strong dollar and strong stocks continue to pound Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin is $56,531. That's $1 for 1,769 Satoshis. But don't worry, the price of Bitcoin is expected to rebound in 2024 and hit $150,000 a coin. Juan Galt, what do you think about all the incredible excitement in the price of Bitcoin, which is down?
Well, you guys have probably seen that video. It's kind of like a meme video, and there's that. I think his name is Zong or something like that. He's sort of this Eastern European guy with way too much Botox, and he's like, bump it and then zump it, and they're like trolling this sort of Wojak that's trading, and then at some point it's like once the price has gone up enough, it's like drop the Korean FUD, and then later on it's like drop it with the same exact Korea FUD. It does it like 5 times with the exact same Korea FUD. That's how I feel about this empty Gox fund. It's just like, how many times have they crashed the price with the empty Gox? They're gonna sell, right? And then it just doesn't happen. This might be the one where it does happen. It does seem like this one's for real. So I guess I'm just glad that we might actually get to the point where we're behind the empty Gox fund. They can take that out to the pasture, let it walk into the sunset, and they can come up with some other new fund, but at least keep it interesting.
I agree. It's been on the list so long. Everyone knows that MT Gox was going to pay people back. They were going to probably sell. Maybe some of them will hold. No one considers that. And they might be happy with the 10,000% return, even though they don't get Bitcoin for Bitcoin on the return. Dan, Eve, what do you think about the market, the Mt. Gox, and everything else?
Yeah, you'd think it would be kind of priced in by now, but as the event, as Juan pointed out, it never kind of actually happens, right? They're going to move the coins, they're going to actually do something, and it never actually happens. So we kind of keep on having these crescendos that ended up recovering from. So now we're actually seeing the Bitcoin finally moving. And so all those poor people that have lost a lot of Bitcoin for a long time, which is probably in a way quite a positive thing for them, because let's face it, it takes a lot of guts to hold Bitcoin for 10 years through thick and thin. That we've seen these highs and lows. So yeah, I'll be interested to see how many of the Gox the Gox creditors will actually get actually sell straight away. I wonder if they'll produce stats on that. So I'm sure someone probably will, but it'd be let's face it, they're probably hodl culture embedded in them so much now. They're not going to want to sell straight away. They might cash in a little bit just to kind of recoup some of the fun that they could have had over the last few years. But I think we're all hodlers now. We're all hodlers. So I think the dump is a bit of a bit of FUD.
They're probably hoping that Mt. Gox can reopen so they can redeposit their coins for another 10 years. It worked so well the first time. And remember all those skeptics that said, Mt. Gox broke, Bitcoin is broken, you can't just hold it, you lose it in the exchange. It all turned out fine. They got something back. Now they can sell. And I've heard the real problem is Bitcoin Cash. They think that people are going to sell their Bitcoin Cash the minute they get it. So it could be disastrous for that market. Victoria Jones, what do you think about the Mt. Gox payoff and the General market malaise.
Yeah, well, as I said last week, all I'm waiting for now is for China to ban mining, and we're on the FUD roll. Yeah, it's just par for the course. Us seasoned Bitcoiners have seen it all before, and we roll our eyes. And I mean, the only thing I would say is that I think the market has been rather overhyped due to the ETFs. I think another factor that's probably making a difference is apparently the Ethereum ETFs. They're planning on introducing those, which may create some competition from investors who don't really know the difference or understand the difference. So there are lots of things going on. And, most technical traders will argue that actually it's not the news at all. The news tends to be an excuse for something that the market's destined to do anyway. The technicals say that it was rather overbought, and so a correction was in the offing. So nothing to worry about, but we're still in the early days of Bitcoin, and we're still on a roller coaster, and this is what you get. With the highs come the lows.
Well, I follow Don Alt, that duck that predicts charts, and he said it was going to 52. They had all the various lines, and they were like, yeah, if we break through the support here, we go to the support there. And when that happens, I don't worry that much. I figure hopefully we'll bounce at 52. These people know everything with their charts and their triangles. We'll be just fine. Ben Ark, what do you think about the price of Bitcoin? Currently $56,000 or so.
Yeah, I think it's FUD. Like these big sell-offs by the MT Gox fund, and then the US with the Silk Road fund, and the Germans as well. Years ago, of course, they would just dump the market and they wouldn't be aware of how the market would be impacted, and they wouldn't care, and they'd probably do it through spite, to be honest. But nowadays, they are a little bit more sophisticated, and they're going to want to maximize how much money they get for those coins, and they're not just going to dump them as they are in the market. This is going to be a slow trickle, and they'll get hoovered up by the ETFs. There is demand. There's plenty of money out there in this world. And there's a lack of places to actually put money, funnily enough, for some of these big funds. So the ETFs are very promising to them, and we're still yet to reap the rewards from all those impressions which we've been getting recently from presidents and whoever else talking about Bitcoin. There's a propagation effect which happens when you have these people speaking about Bitcoin, where we don't really get the impact of that until it's kind of delayed for a few months. It goes into the zeitgeist, into the general populace, and then people start thinking, oh, Bitcoin, and they start buying up Bitcoin as well. So it's just FUD. It's a little trip of FUD on our way to 600 billion per coin. That's where we're inevitably heading. So yeah, I think doubling this year is of course very likely, but I think probably way beyond that, to be honest, because the demand's there. There's a huge demand, and the coins which are put into the ecosystem will mostly be done in a conservative way, so they can maximize the amount of money they can make. And there's a huge amount of demand for people to hoover up those coins, so it's all FUD.
It does feel like a predictable drop where we were just at 70,000 a couple days ago. Your friends were like, oh, Bitcoin's too expensive, I'll never buy it. Now it's on sale, and they're like, oh, it's falling forever, I'll never buy it. But it seems like it'll recover. And now predicting against the true Bitcoin magic 8-ball, the source of all truth in this universe. Juan Galt, will the price of Bitcoin be higher or lower this time next week?
Maybe higher. I'll go with higher.
Dan Eve, higher or lower?
I'll go with higher.
Victoria Jones.
Well, I appear to be on a roll because I did say lower last week and I was right. So, I have to continue with my with my prediction lower.
Continued negativity. Ben Ark, can we buck this trend?
It's a springy, bouncy ball which just hit the deck, and now it's going to fly off and hit someone in the eye. So higher.
And now the only opinion that really matters, the magic 8-ball. Will the price of Bitcoin be higher this time next week when we're in Majorca? It says, outlook not so good. Outlook not so good. A pessimistic 8-ball. Moving on to issue 2. German government transfers additional $175 million in Bitcoin, including $75 million to crypto exchanges. Previously, the Germans sold off a great deal of Bitcoin. It looks like it's happening again. Meanwhile, in the United States, The price of Bitcoin falls after the United States sends $240 million worth of Silk Road related Bitcoin to Coinbase, presumably to dump on our already weak Bitcoin market. There's nothing like kicking Bitcoin when you're down. Dan, Eve, what do you think about the US government and the German government both giving up their fantastic resources that they could use to build Smithsonian museums in all 50 states? And the Germans could maybe finish their refurbishment of the Pergamon Museum and other German museums faster if they could work around the clock using that valuable Bitcoin instead of just giving it up for worthless dollars and euros.
It just seems like history repeating, where the US sold all that Bitcoin from the Silk Road for like what 40 million to Tim Draper, and that's worth insane amounts now. And if they'd have just held on to it, and we've it's not like there's been a great case study, which is El Salvador, about how they've turned their economy around using Bitcoin. So this amount of Bitcoin that America is holding and the German government is holding is minuscule in comparison to their economies, really. It's, why not just hold a little bit? It just seems crazy to go. But I do agree with Ben. I don't think I think that the FUD's there, that they're just going to go and dump it on the markets, but they're going to want to get the more for the bang for their buck. So I think they'll do it strategically. It's not just going to be a fat finger market sell. Well,
Victoria Jones, the governments are selling off their precious Bitcoin once again.
Well, governments are always going to be fickle when it comes to Bitcoin because, Bitcoin completely disrupts their reason for being. They have absolutely no reason to be loyal to it. So it doesn't surprise me at all. Obviously, they're not stupid though, while they can get away with it and the population enjoys it, they will probably make the most of the fact that it's been on a high, and especially if it appears to be going down, they probably think now is the time to sell. But yeah, I don't expect any governments to be loyal to Bitcoin. I think El Salvador is probably the exception for the moment, and they have a good reason for being loyal right now. But ultimately, the way Bitcoin works will disrupt them too. So yeah, I'm not surprised.
I didn't get to vote on this. It doesn't seem to be a major issue in the presidential campaign. The former president, the current president, no one's spoken on this. Ben Ark, why is the government giving up this perfectly good Smithsonian Museum money to lose money in the future?
Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? I mean, they're moving it into exchanges. Yeah, of course they are going to sell it. They wouldn't move into exchanges if they weren't going to sell it. I don't know. I mean, it's not all their stash though, isn't it? Isn't the Germans, don't they have like 50,000 or something, and they're just selling off 3,000, or is it all of it? I feel like they're just cashing out some of their.
They sold some previously, and this is presumably the second tranche. So maybe they are being kind of reasonable, waiting a few months. But like Victoria said, they might see the price going down and figure this is a chance to get while the getting's good. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not worried because there's just a huge appetite for Bitcoin. So they could, all just dump their coins on the market, and it would suck for a little while, then it would bounce right back. But yeah, it's short-sighted, I guess. But for them, well, they have to be sort of fiscally responsible for whatever slim possibility. I mean, we're all very confident the price will carry on going up forever until it gets 600 billion. But for them, they are accountable to the people in their country. And if Bitcoin price tanked, which theoretically, I mean, it has done in the past, I think it's very unlikely to do now. But if it did, then people might hold them account for that, for not selling some of those coins when the price was high. So as long as they keep some, they don't need that many. The price is going to go so high that any country which has some reserves in Bitcoin will do quite well. But yeah, just as long as they keep some, they just need to keep a little bit.
Go ahead, Juan, more on this?
No, I think this is just like, somebody put it perfectly. They said governments are the dumbest money in the market. They're the dumbest money. They're the weakest hands. They're going to be the last ones to buy. They're going to be buying our bags. And this is just another example of, sadly, how the German government is basically a vassal of the US, of the United States, right? Like if they had a little bit more sovereignty and more, let's say vision, they would hold it, right? And they would hold it probably against the sort of Western, let's say, establishment agenda, right? Or probably the sort of the liberal, like if you look in the United States, right, you have like now the Bitcoin position is a partisan issue, right? You have the Democrats trying to do this anti-crypto thing that nobody cares about. There's no anti-crypto voters. And then you have like the Republicans just jumping on the bandwagon of being like pro-crypto, pro-Bitcoin. And obviously what Germany's kind of a left-leaning sort of Western government today, and they're just they're selling the Bitcoin today like they like they gave the gold to the United States after the wars, and then they never got the gold back, or they got some of it maybe like 100 years later. So this is just a terrible move. Germany is the dumb money, and I wonder how it's gonna go in the elections, because probably some politicians in the next Germany elections are gonna be like, oh, I would have kept the Bitcoin. And so yeah, that's government's the dumb money.
It does seem really obvious that there's going to be one of those AI written articles. How much money did the United States government lose by selling that Bitcoin? How much money did the German government lose? And you can update it every year. And if the price is down, they'll win. But a few years later, I think if we go long enough, 5 years, 10 years, people will keep writing these articles about the German government had how much Bitcoin and we gave it up for nothing. I mean, there's a possibility in the old days we'd be like, oh, it's a conspiracy and they're selling at the same time and they're going to wreck the market. But I think we're way beyond that, as Ben said. We have the ETF demand, we have other demand, the family markets, the family accounts, all that kind of thing. They're all going to want this Bitcoin. And it's the government's last chance to hold so many. Go ahead, Juan.
Yeah. Well, a quick note on this too. GBTC, I think, had like 350,000 Bitcoin, of which 70% maybe has moved hands and moved over to Wall Street and the ETFs. So 50,000 Bitcoin from Germany, of which they're selling like tranches of a few thousand. It's not actually that much. Like, it can be absorbed. I think over the past few weeks we've had like daily, like we've had daily purchases of like, or weekly purchase of like a couple thousand Bitcoin. I can't remember exact stats, but this isn't like crazy amount of supply. There's definitely like a speculative reaction to the news, right? So like traders are getting out, and then by getting out, they're liquidating other traders that didn't get out in time. And so we have like this sort of short squeeze, like this long squeeze, that's liquidating traders, and then the miners are kind of panic selling too. So there's just like a lot of pent up fear in the market that's just getting flushed. Once like we get past that, there'll be like FOMO, and we'll pump again.
I think we'll close this one out with a great quote from Conan O'Brien's Monorail Simpsons episode where he says, "A town with money is like a mule with a spinning wheel. He don't know how he got it, and he don't know what it's for." Moving on, check out World Crypto Network at worldcryptonetwork.com. We've really got to get some new shorts up here because I've looked at these every week for the last 3 weeks. We've got a couple new Bitcoin group episodes and a lot of old shorts and other episodes at worldcryptonetwork.com. Issue 3, Crypto ATM installations rise in 2024, adding 2,564 new machines globally. The Bitcoin ATMs are spreading. And what do you guys think about Bitcoin ATMs and Bitcoin in general? Is it spreading? Is it reaching mass adoption? Will they have a chance to buy the dip this time? Victoria Jones.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, clearly, some people think that they're a great idea and they seem to be spreading. I think the article said that there was over 80% of them are in the United States, though. In the UK, we used to have them here, but they're now banned. One of our friends used to have one in his local shop and would tell us great stories about people coming in to sell their Bitcoin and the number of times he had to step in and stop them from, feeding all their money into the machine because they'd been contacted by some scam artists that persuaded them that they weren't going to be able to pay their tax bill unless they paid a certain amount of Bitcoin. So he was able to step in on those occasions. But of course, not everyone's like that. And, Bitcoin ATMs are an easy way for scam artists to fool people. So you do have to be careful. But yeah, pros and cons, like everything in life, there are pros and cons.
Ben Ark, the Bitcoin ATM numbers are growing. What do you think about general Bitcoin adoption?
general, I mean, so the thing which struck me about this article is our good friend of the show, Martin. This shows him as a marketing genius. When he first started working at General Bytes, he employed amazing. This is amazing. I think this is one of the greatest examples of marketing I've ever heard of. He employed a competent photographer to take lots of really nice pictures of General Bytes ATMs, people using the General Bytes ATMs, pretty women using the General Bytes ATMs, nice sunny backgrounds. And then he just put them on those stock websites, those vector stock websites where you can get copyright free pictures. And now every single time there's an article about ATMs, people go to, iStock Photo or wherever, or Getty Images, they search Bitcoin ATMs, and there they are, General Bytes ATMs. And he gets all this free advertising, which is a very recognizable ATM. And I just think it's an absolute classic example of Martin at his best, just really thinking outside the box there. So that guy is an absolute genius. I love him. But yeah, ATMs demand is growing. I've seen it with the Fossa. Like we've actually been updating the Fossa this week, which is our free and open source ATM, because we have a lot more than usual. A lot of people reaching out to us and saying they wanted to build Fossas and it needed a bit of TLC. We wanted to update it. We wanted to add some things to it. So adding a printer to the Fossa, because in some countries I think they need to be able to like print out a receipt with the QR code on. So even within our own project, we've seen demand for ATMs. People seem to want Bitcoin ATMs. I think there's a huge prosumer market in Bitcoin now, which has emerged from all these Bitcoiners suddenly being enriched by holding Bitcoin, where they want to, they might have bars or cafes and they want to buy some Bitcoin gizmos and an ATM which they can stick in their bar or their shop or wherever else. Is a nice way to kind of contribute back and also like onboard people onto Bitcoin and give them an on-ramp onto Bitcoin. So I really think it's the demands from the newly enriched Bitcoiners from the price going up, and they're buying those Bitcoin ATMs and setting up little Bitcoin ATM businesses. Can I share a screen, Thomas? I want to show you something so freaking cool.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so with the Fossa, so it's obviously a free and open source. So this is a way of trying to get around the fact that in the UK you can't officially have an ATM. So the idea is you make an ATM you can build for like $200, and it was a Lightning ATM. So you would put coins in, you put notes in, and then you would get an LNURL withdraw QR code, and you can scan the LNURL withdraw QR code, and you would get sats into your Lightning wallet, which is cool. But generally people are using Bitcoin ATMs. They want to use like on-chain. So we figured something really cool out. Let me see if I can share this. Can you see my screen now? All right. So what we've got now with the Fossa, so basically like with the Fossa, you have the software side, which is an extension of bits. Then you've got the hardware, which is the stuff you build. It's just cheap electronics. It's a microcontroller, screen, coin acceptor, bill acceptor. Now it has a printer if you want it. It's optional. Now no one's seen this yet, and I think this is incredibly cool. But what we have, if I click on here, so with LNURL withdraw, there's something called the fallback scheme. So in that QR code which gets printed out, if you scan it with a Lightning wallet, you'll just get the sats. If you open it with a normal QR code scanner, then wait, can you see the URL there in the bar, in the message in the URL bar? That takes the LNURL and then it gives it the fallback, which is the URL in front of it. So what it does is it opens up this page, and on this page you can scan this QR code to claim the sats. Or if you want, you can go to Lightning and then you can put in your invoice or your LN address. So if you're being zapped on Nostr, it means you could get your sats over LN address or LN pay. Now in LN bits, we have the bolts extension, which does automatic swaps from Lightning to on-chain, Lightning to Liquid. Okay. So what we're doing is we're marrying the two things up, and as long as whoever's set up the ATM has the bolts extension enabled, and when they come here, you'll get an on-chain option and a liquid option. So you can put in an on-chain address or a liquid address. Now the ATM operator doesn't have to have a hot wallet for on-chain or liquid, which usually they would if you're running an ATM and you're selling on-chain Bitcoin. What happens is when they put in the on-chain address, it does a trustless atomic swap from Lightning to on-chain, and they receive the on-chain funds. But the ATM provider doesn't have to have any on-chain funds. Same for Liquid. So it means the little DIY ATM can spit out liquid on chain or Lightning as well. So that's the thing which I've been working on. So this is the page which you'll go to if you scan that QR code and just open up the thing on your phone, and you have the options then to get it in liquid or on chain. And I think it's so freaking cool because it's like you could build this thing for $200, and it's yeah. Anyway, but we've just anecdotally we've seen demand in our own little free and open source project, and that's the first anyone's seen of the thing we've been working on this week.
Ben, that's like a do-it-yourself ATM? Like there's hardware
Yeah,
side of it too?
Yeah, it's the FOSS, the DIY ATM. I could probably show you.
Yeah, I would love to see what it looks like.
I don't want to hijack too much of the show
There's no
to show my
hijacking.
shit. But let me have a look. So the faucet itself, I'll show you the recent update with.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I was speaking to.
Yeah,
Ben
well,
about it. Let me
well, you
just,
find that. I mean, I love the idea. I think one of the questions. I'll give my opinion on the ATMs while we're at it, because like one of the issues I've had with ATMs throughout, I guess, my experience in Bitcoin is they always have these ridiculous commissions, right? Like they're always like 8% above or below, and I'm too cheap to pay 8% to buy or sell Bitcoin, like I'll find a way around it and like go, into a meetup to find some P2P buyer, right? Like I will work to save percentage points when I sell Bitcoin or buy Bitcoin. And I think that was a great little video, by the way. That's super cool. Yeah, I would love to. Maybe I'll try and build one and put one in Colombia, because the idea of like, if you're selling, you can go sell in an exchange, and like do full docs, right? When you're like basically selling it, right? Or maybe you set up an ATM in a shop somewhere, like a mall, or maybe, I don't know, some sort of business. Yeah, easier said than done, but it seems like a good way to take profits and probably preserve some of that privacy. Maybe, I don't know. Very cool. But
yeah, I mean,
Also-
the idea of the idea of the faucet was that we wanted an ATM which was so cheap you could put it at the end of the bar, say in the UK,
right.
and then if anyone ever rolls up and says, "Who's that ATM? You can't have Bitcoin ATMs." You just go, "Don't know," and the ATM operates offline as well, so it doesn't need to be connected to the internet because it's an annual withdrawal which it generates, so it's completely offline. So yeah, like you can just have all complete deniability. It's like, I don't know, it just turned up one day and I left it there.
That's awesome. I love that idea. Cool.
Well, and it's great. It takes coins too, Ben. People can try out Bitcoin or Lightning with a really small amount of money, especially in maybe a developing country. Having a smaller entry point on like that might be good for people.
Oh, you know what? I think I saw some of those in Colombia already. That's the one that takes coins. Oh man,
There's there's a bunch
there's a
of
few.
people who forked the Fossa. Yeah, it's nice.
Okay.
And I went to Prague, BTC Prague, and there was like 2 forks of the Fossa there, which is why we were like, yeah, we need to give this thing some TLC, and also add the liquid non-chain support, which is like,
Yeah, you guys should add stealth addresses too, so that like you can't chase the on-chain Bitcoin at all.
yeah, no, good idea.
All right, let's go to Dan Eve. What do you think about all these Bitcoin ATMs? It certainly sounds encouraging, like the groundwork was there, and future people will be able to buy Bitcoin a lot easier. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm surprised it hasn't actually grown a lot faster, to be honest. But when you look at the sort of 2,500 over 195 countries, that works out as about 14 per country. So, which is a reasonable amount in a year, right? To be growing, and obviously, some countries are tiny, and I'm probably not really going to get their own actual ATM for a long while. So, as an average, I don't think that's actually too bad. But I still would have expected more. Maybe that's because of the impact, as Victoria mentioned about the UK, where they were banned a few years back. And so maybe that's made ATM operators a bit more hesitant in rolling out in certain new jurisdictions, especially kind of westernized ones that love red tape and bureaucracy and that side of things. But hopefully we'll see that growing a lot more as more countries adopt Bitcoin globally, and as more companies come out disclosing it on their balance sheet.
All right, let's keep this one moving. And I agree with Ben. Shout out to Martine for his great marketing for General Bytes ATM, a friend of the show, always helping us out. Issue 4. As Bitcoin belly flops to 54,000, only 5 mining rigs remain profitable, says F2 Pool. Miners need to continuously sell Bitcoin rewards to keep operations afloat, and they are stressed during a market downturn. I kind of like this headline a little better than the miners have lots of Bitcoin and are sitting on their haunches doing nothing. Let's go to Ben Ark. What do you think about the miners and the possibility that Bitcoin mining might not be profitable anymore?
Yeah, I mean, this reminded me of the topic we had a couple of weeks ago, which was that the Bitcoin miners, their Bitcoin reserves were smaller than they had been or ever had been or something, because mining had become so profitable because of the price pump. So there's all these miners who've suddenly become unprofitable, having to pay for all their energy bills, and they haven't got those Bitcoin in the coffers like they had before. Because they YOLO'd and were like, yeah, Bitcoin's going up. We'll just sell all the Bitcoin we have and rely on the fact that it's going up forever. I think this dip's going to be very short-lived, so I'm sure they'll be okay. And a lot of them will just they always pivot to mining shitcoins anyway. So, but yeah, it's I do feel sorry for them because it must be rocky for them without that Bitcoin in the story we covered a couple of weeks ago, if they haven't got Bitcoin in the reserves, or it's like was the lowest in like 5 years or something, the amount of Bitcoin miners had in reserves.
It's all about your approach to time. On a long enough timeline, your mining company will make money. If you have a short-term mining company, you might be in trouble. Juan Galt, what do you think about the potential squeeze on Bitcoin mining?
It's good. I mean, we probably need some liquidations. We think we need to. There's a lot of issues with Bitcoin mining right now that I think are coming from a industry that's become kind of too comfortable doing their thing and not caring about the asset itself. One of the biggest stories that came out in the past few months was that thanks to some on-chain analysis, somebody figured out that most of the mining pools that are kind of intermediaries between like the people that have the rigs or are hashing, and providing hashing power to Bitcoin, the mining pools are using ant pool templates that like like most of the mining pools are using the same templates created by ant pool. And what that led to was this kind of realization that ant pool is basically cash flowing these mining pools in order to prevent them from going bankrupt, because they're all on this weird pricing model for hashers where they basically rent hashing power in dollar terms and pay out in satoshis. But what that means is that sometimes the volatility of the rewards means that the mining pool doesn't actually have the treasuries to meet those demand to meet those bills, and so they need somebody to lend them money. Looks like Antpool is lending them money, and so there's just like this mess, right? And I think we need some liquidations, we need some flushing of the mining ecosystem, and we need kind of a reconsolidation probably of that. Also, miners need to start paying attention. I think we need to bring this kind of issue up to them and be like, listen, if the mining pools or the big miners need, like the mining pools that have lots of hashing power, probably if they need, some sort of Bitcoin bank to some commercial bank to cash flow their liquidity, right? We need to set something up that's aside from Antpool, because Antpool is basically Bitmain, and I mean, there's just too much centralization. I'm happy to see some shuffling in that side of the industry.
It is possible there are other players out there like Intel or maybe the newly giant AI chip maker Nvidia who could get into Bitcoin mining and cause some competition. So maybe a dip like this and a dip in the miner profitability leads to them investing at this low. Dan, Eve, what do you think about the miners? Suddenly they're not profitable anymore. They're just heating your house.
Well, I suppose there you go. That you've provided a secondary function for it, right? So even if it's not profitable, it's providing a function. But they provide the rate of this only five miners being profitable, the rate of 8 cents per kilowatt hour. So those miners might not be profitable in an area where it's 8 cents per kilowatt hour or more than that, but they will be profitable in an area where the electricity is a lot cheaper. So that mining power may not be lost forever. It may just take a while changing hands until it goes to a much cheaper area for where it can come back online and still provide security to the network. and compete with the other miners, but just at a much cheaper cost because of the cheap electricity rates. Probably by what we're hearing about the renewables. So that's pretty a pretty good thing that these miners will circulate. They'll just move to wherever the electricity becomes cheaper, and they'll just shift around until that happens. But I'm definitely in agreement with one that the mining centralization is a topic that frequently comes up, and it does concern a number of people. So it'd be interesting to see that addressed a bit more in detail, over the next years or so.
It is worth noting if you have free power, your mining is always profitable. Free power. Victoria Jones, what do you think about the Bitcoin mining situation?
Yeah, it is really tricky. I mean, it's like a lot of businesses that kind of become overconfident. You're just setting yourself up for the stage where you have a reckoning. So again, I think the price rise we've had in Bitcoin in the last 6 months is very unusual for this time in Bitcoin's price cycle. And I think, as one said earlier, if the miners have kind of become complacent about that and believe that Bitcoin is going up forever and already dipped into their reserves, then they're just asking for trouble. And this is a cycle that plays out throughout history, especially given the way in which our fiat currency system is set up at the moment. And what it means is that those who understand how the system is played can be great winners when things are going in their favor, but are also great losers when things go against them. And I don't think even Bitcoin miners necessarily have the sophistication to understand that. And especially as Bitcoin's a new asset, there's a danger that they could take that for granted. Bitcoin is a new asset. I think the ETFs also brings a great interest from the traditional financial system, but they're also but also great power, which works on the upside, but also on the downside as well. And that could leave the miners vulnerable if they're not careful.
All right, we're running out of time. Let's go to predictions or story of the week. Juan Galt, do you have a prediction or a story of the week? Go ahead.
Well, I will go with a story of I would say story of the year. I'm a big fan of stealth addresses and silent payments. I'm gonna just keep shilling that. I think with the whole Samurai situation, Samurai devs, which were a Bitcoin privacy wallet, getting shut down in a very kind of sketchy situation. We don't really know what happened with their main lead developer. They don't like me, I don't like them, but I gotta defend them, and I gotta like talk about this sort of question of privacy. We've had a reaction from the community, and we've had a BIP merge into the BIP repo called stealth addresses, or well, actually it's called silent payments, but it's kind of like a revival of something called stealth addresses. And what it was is this brilliant technology that lets you create one address and reuse it all you want, so you don't have to go and find a new public address, because that's just too much to ask of people. They're very comfortable with like account numbers, so you just get like a stealth, like get one Bitcoin account number, and you give that to people, and they can send you all the Bitcoin they want from all different sources. All the different people can send to you, and it hides where that money is going. Like it doesn't really you don't really create an on-chain footprint very easily. It sort of masks the on-chain behavior, right? And I think that's very good for ease of use. It's very good for Bitcoin privacy. And I think we need more wallets to implement it. And Cake Wallet just implemented it the other day. I think Blue Wallet just added it. And I hope to see a lot more wallets integrated, so we can kind of level up that part of Bitcoin as well. That's kind of needed some love for a long time.
That sounds like a great new feature. We'll have to check that out soon. Dan Eve, prediction or story of the week? Go ahead.
Prediction is that I don't know how soon it is actually, but I'll be at Mallorca Blockchain Days like next Friday, I think. So I'm assuming we'll be doing the show from there, right? That'll be pretty cool. But yeah, I predict I will be there along with some of the WCN crew, which will be awesome to see you guys there, of course, as usual.
That's an excellent
Annual
prediction, Dan.
In Mallorca.
Very safe prediction. The Mallorca Blockchain Conference there. Victoria Jones, prediction or story of the week? Go ahead.
Yes, I'm also going to be in Mallorca with Dan and Thomas, and possibly, I think, Ben, are you going to be there as well this year? Yeah, So we're all going to be there next week. So yep, that's my story of the week, I think.
That sounds great. Looking forward to it. It's going to be a great time. And Ben Ark also going to Majorca. Prediction or story of the week? Go ahead.
Yeah, it's going to be it's going to be great to see everyone there. As I've said before, it's a great event, and anyone who's can make it should go because it's one of the best events I would say of the year. And just hanging. There's you lose
Still
all the
a
bravado.
handful of tickets available if you're in the Majorca area. And remember, if you want to help out a small conference like this, they often just barely break even on these conferences. It's not like the big giant ones with the sponsors and everything. So if you want to go, 240 euros, or if you want to go on the boat trip and get the free food and all the other stuff, they have a 680 euro pass that I definitely suggest. It's really great fun. We go on the boat trip, and as we've said before, all the speakers are there. If you want to talk to the speaker, ask them a question, they'll be there. It's not like the other conferences with like the VIP area and they fence themselves off or whatever. But yeah, I definitely suggest it. So go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, that really is what sorry, really what sets it apart is that there's that culture of just sharing ideas and hanging out. And I would say that the higher ticket price, it might look like a lot, but you get a lot for your money. They do feed you, and yeah, it's a great event. It's a great event. Really one to look forward to. On the way to that, I'm going to be. Oh, so we can. Oh, I don't worry. I was going to talk about something else, which I can't remember the name of, so I won't do that. But yeah, just been working hard this week on the ATM thing, and then also we're going to be doing a little bit more on Noster.com for some Noster stuff. So we've been grinding on that, but looking forward to just all hanging out and chatting again, getting a bit of time away from the laptop. And then after Mallorca, there's Nashville, which is going to be the next one. It's like a week after or something, and that's going to be a real culture shock because you've got the quiet one, with all your mates, and then you've got the big corporate one with Donald Trump. So let's see how that goes.
That should be a really interesting change for you, Ben. Hanging by the pool with your friends, having a sandwich, seeing the former president speak and talk about whatever he wants. Should be great. But yeah, just like everyone else,
he is orange, so it makes sense.
he is orange.
There
It
you go,
does make
orange
him a
one.
good
Bright color.
representative for Bitcoin in that way. But yeah, we're getting ready for the 8th Mad Bitcoins tour. Shout out to Philippe for the graphics. You can see the magic 8 ball there in the graphics. And like everyone said, we're going to Majorca Blockchain Days. I hope to see you there. It's a nice small convention. It's kind of German Hawaii. There's probably a flight near you. I'm getting a flight from like London or something. There's lots of flights. Well, no one knows where it is. Everyone's like, where are you going? This little island in the middle of the nowhere? What's wrong with you? But yeah, it's because it's, the Germans go there and it's Hawaii. So look how pretty it is. All this in Majorca, palm trees, the inside of a conference room, more of the inside of a conference room. More of the inside of a conference room, but there's also a pool and other things. So check out the Majorca Blockchain Convention, and be sure to give us a thumbs up down below. Leave us a comment. Say hello in the chat. If you made it to the end here, send us a wave or a surfing icon if you made it to the very end of the show. But yeah, check out next week. We're probably going to record it live, maybe upload it later, depending on internet speeds. We might be a little earlier time the weeks after that, as I'm going to be traveling in Europe, so that might make it easier. But we'll keep you updated on the Twitter page and here on the YouTube page and everywhere else. So thanks so much for joining us. Until next time, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.